Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Good Old Gamer. So we got ourselves a whole bunch more news following up from Monday's update about the upcoming mainstream graphics cards from AMD and Nvidia. So that's pretty exciting. If you haven't checked out Monday's update or you're unfamiliar with what's going on, you can go ahead and click the link in the description below. I went ahead and linked it because these stories are going to tie together. So we have a lot more information about when the RTX 3050 is coming out, and it should be coming out much sooner than a lot of people are anticipating. The 6500 XT from AMD also coming out much sooner than a lot of people were anticipating. And Nvidia's got themselves some pretty bad news on the ARM front. So those stories and more we're going to be talking about today in this video. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Before we do, make sure you smash that like button. Let YouTube know that you like these type of videos. Really helps out the channel, and I thank you all for your support. So alrighty guys, kicking things off with the long-rumored RTX 3050. Seems like it should be coming sooner than previously reported. This is not in second quarter, but in January. So we were talking the other day about the 3050 and its specs, and people were expecting it in Q2, which made sense if they were waiting to see what Intel and AMD were bringing. But it looks like there's enough leaks out there that Nvidia's got a decent idea, as we now know that the RTX 3050 is actually going to be a GA106 die, so they're actually bumping it up. They wanted it to be a GA107 because they're smaller, but they can't because they need to be competitive with AMD and Intel. The latest rumors are showing that it should be coming out on January 27th, so about a month and a half from now. And yeah, that's actually a lot sooner than we were all anticipating, and really makes January a lot more exciting. So just taking a quick look at the specs here, we have the RTX 3050, 6500 XT, and Intel's Arc A380. This is their 128 EU version, and these cards should all be relatively competitive with each other. I, however, did want to point this out. Nvidia is coming out with an 8 gig card, Intel's going to have a 6 gig card, and AMD's going to have a 4 gig card. So it's just kind of funny. And then we also have a 128-bit bus, a 96-bit bus, and a 64-bit bus. These should all be out relatively close to each other. Even though they're showing Q2 2022 on the Intel Arc, I think that this will actually be bumped up. We'll know more once CES comes. Now, I'm going to just jump right into the next story because it ties right in. AMD's entry-level RX 6000 series GPUs now have a release date. So once again, this is a leak, and when this is now expected to come is in mid-January. So likely just before the 27th, I would assume, because 27th is the end of January. So we should see the 6500 XT come out, and then we should see the 3050 right thereafter. That's why I believe Intel's not going to want to be too far away from this, so they'll likely push their timetables. And then, unfortunately, it looks like the bad news is for the RX 6400. This one is likely not coming until March. That's a bit disappointing because for me, I'm actually most interested in this card, as this is going to be great for like low profile cards or small form factor, or basically this is the one I'm expecting to not require a power connector. And there's a lot of people out there that could use that graphics card right now. Now, in terms of specs, there's nothing new from our last update from Monday, so we're basically expecting this to be basically RX 580 level on the low end, and up to something like a Vega 56 or GTX 1070 level at the absolute top, or something like a GTX 1660 Super, 1660 Ti. That's kind of the level that or the range we're expecting this to be in due to these specs. So if you are in that sort of mainstream or mid-range graphics card market and you're like, hey guys, I'd like an option, well, it looks like you're going to have all of the options coming here very soon. Now, I know a lot of very salty people are going to go into the comment section and go, they're going to be overinflated. Of course they're going to be overinflated. Duh. But mainstream GPUs are now sub 400, guys. You just got to get over it. That's kind of the way things are. Paul and I talked extensively about this on the last Techonomics podcast. You guys can go ahead and check that out. Wages here, at least in the United States, are up at least 50% from where they were 2 years ago, which means everything else, including food, gas, everything else, is going to go up minimum 50% over where they were. So if you take $250, you add 50%, you're right around $400. So I'm sorry, that's just the way things go. People get paid more, things cost more. It's called basic economics. So regardless of that, I expect that these cards will likely be sub 300 with the MSRP. Now, they're probably not even going to be that day one, but these cards should be sub 350. or at least have sub $350 options and definitely sub $400. So if you're in that mainstream market and you want an upgrade, these look like they might be the way to go. Now, the 3050 right now is definitely more compelling. Nvidia seems to be putting a lot more effort into there. Obviously, they're not using the GA107, which they would prefer, which might make a lot of sense why I haven't been seeing a lot of RTX 3060s showing up on the market. I have a few trackers out there, and the last one was from like 2 weeks ago where any 3060s came in. There was none over Black Friday on any of my trackers. So I think that Nvidia is really trying to stockpile these cards. I think they want a nice push at the initial launch. So let's just, for example, say it's 1660 Ti level, which is kind of the high side for the Radeon, but I think that's where the 3050 will land. You're going to get 2 more gigabytes of VRAM, likely a $250-ish MSRP, but in reality, they are probably going to be $280, $300, maybe even $330. But if we take a look at what 1660 Ti's are going for, jumping over here on eBay, so if you want a 1660 Ti 6 gigabyte, you're looking at $510 for this little guy, $520 and on up. So anything sub 400 is much better than this. Now that's the harsh reality of the situation. So if you can pick one of these cards up with 2 extra gigabytes of VRAM, and assuming it performs similarly to a 1660 Ti for let's say $300 on down or $350 on down, it's definitely the way to go here today. Now, of course, if you want to wait longer, eventually they will come down to that MSRP, but it might be 6 months. That would be my guess. 9 months, 12 months, could be 24 months. I mean, it will eventually happen, but it just depends how long you're willing to wait. And I know a lot of you guys in this particular GPU segment have already been waiting a pretty long time. So in reality, if we get that sort of performance at that sort of price point, like I said, $350 on down, you might as well jump. After the initial stock runs out, they'll be $500 or more, just like the 1660 Ti. So it's either get it now for $300 to $400, or you got to spend $500 plus. It's your call. Now moving on over to the Radeon GPU, it should be similar in performance or slightly slower. Like I said, on the low end, it might only be RX 580 level. The big thing is with only 4 gigabytes of VRAM, it's not going to be a very compelling option next to this, but the upside is AMD will now have to charge less. I believe that AMD wanted to charge $250 MSRP for the 6500 XT, but if Nvidia comes out with one that's $250, even if it's $280, they're not going to be able to charge that. They're just going to look very, very bad next to the Nvidia card. So most likely we'll be seeing $229 or even $199, which is where it really should be, even with the inflated market. Let's be honest. You know, these cards were $200 years ago, 5 years ago. So even if we account for all that, it should be $199 or lower. So if AMD does that, with the way the market is, you might be able to get them for $250. It's not the end of the world considering they're like $350, $400 for the RX 580s right now on eBay. Now, if it's a little bit faster and it's about as fast as the 1660 Super, 1660 Ti, then that's actually not awful. You're basically getting the same card for the same price from a few years ago. Now, here's the big thing you got to remember, and I'm going to keep reiterating this till people understand. Your money is not worth what it was 2 years ago. It's worth significantly less. Almost every country in the world, this is the case, especially here in the US. So 2 years ago, prices today is actually not that bad. You are losing some VRAM though. That's going to be the main crux of that particular card. But I think if they price it right and the availability is good and the performance is halfway decent, if you're in that market and let's say you're using something like a GTX 960 or a 1050 Ti, or even maybe something like an RX 470, you might as well at least consider this as an upgrade. Now, if you're using any GPU faster than that, you might as well just continue to wait. I don't think a one-tier upgrade with 4 gigabytes of VRAM makes a lot of sense. The RTX 3050 actually makes a lot more sense with things like DLSS as an option to help push higher resolutions on weaker cards. Plus the 8 gigabytes of VRAM, that should be just fine. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Nvidia confirms the RTX 2060 12 gigabyte specifications. So this is basically just confirming everything we talked about on Monday. So all the leaks that we had, were confirmed 100% true. This should actually be coming out within the next few days, and we'll see how they go. In reality, it should be very close in performance to the RTX 3060, probably within 5 to 10%, and unfortunately will probably cost the same as the RTX 3060. This is the one thing that I did want to highlight, as this is from The Verge, from an Nvidia spokesperson. It's a premium version of the RTX 2060 6GB, and we expect the price to reflect that. So basically, that's Nvidia letting you guys know that it's not going to be $299. We could throw that out the window. Likely, it'll be priced at the same $329 MSRP as the RTX 3060. They really can't price the MSRP higher than that. Now, we all know, as I've been saying, all the MSRPs are not a real thing. You got to add at least about $50 to them for the launch day prices at the bare minimum. So more than likely, these will be about $400 when they come out. Once again, if you compare that to what 3060s are going for, they're like $800 on eBay. So $400 or $800, those are really your two options. So $400 is way better than $800. So I'm assuming that they'll be $329-ish. They might go as high as $349. That is what Video Cards was guessing. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because then they'll have to bump up the 3060's MSRP. And Nvidia doesn't like doing that. It's just bad optics. Even if the card never, ever, ever, ever sells at that price point, it's just bad optics. And like I said, they can sell this thing as a $329 card, but then they're really $400. So I think that they're going to go that route. And if you want something that's a little bit faster than the cards I was just talking about, this is probably going to be your best option. So you might as well jump on that. Now, I wanted to touch on this story because, everybody going, there's shortages. There's no shortages. There's just no shortage on greed. That's really the only thing. So graphics add-in board market reaches $13.7 billion for Q3 2021. So that was July, August, and September. So those 3 months, showing double-digit growth year to year. So basically, we're selling more graphics cards now than we were last year. This isn't that crazy to think about, because this was like right before Ampere launched, right before RDNA 2 last year. So people were waiting. So obviously people weren't buying graphics cards as much at that time last year, but still that means that they're shipping more units this year than last year at the same time. All right, so that's coming from the John Petty research. These are the guys that keep track of all of this. And yeah, you can take a look at all the data that you want. I just wanted to throw this in here to go, stop buying the lie that there are shortages. You could make the argument that shipping is a major concern, because they are having problems with that. Everybody is. But outside of shipping to the US, not in between like China and Taiwan and all that, I haven't heard of any issues over there. Just here, it's a problem. And maybe over in Europe, but obviously I live in the US, so I'm more familiar with the US troubles. Regardless, there's not a global supply shortage. Stop spouting that. I see it in comment sections all the time. It's not a thing. The only shortage is not being able to get them to the end user. So I guess you could kind of quasi-argue that, but there's not a shortage of actual supply. We are seeing more graphics cards produced now than we did last year. Poof, done, evidence. We're over it. I just kind of want to put the nail in that coffin of that argument. I don't like that argument. I've never believed that argument. It's just an excuse for people to charge more money and to pass blame along on some external factor other than inflation. Nobody and no company wants to talk about inflation, but let's be real, it's happening. You can't print trillions upon trillions of dollars and expect things to not go up. And I keep harping on it. Taco Bell now starting at $13 an hour where I live. That just lets you know that, yes, we're inflated rather significantly. Now for our final story, looks like Nvidia and ARM finally hitting some issues. FTC sues to block the $40 billion semiconductor chip merger. So this is kind of interesting, and they kind of pointed out, I think some of the guys in the comment section, the FTC could have blocked the merger, but they okayed it, I guess. I don't know. I don't have all of the information, but now they're suing. It's like, oh, we changed our mind. But regardless, it looks like Nvidia is going to have to grease some wheels to make this happen. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be very happy about this news, particularly somebody like Apple, who does not want to be paying Nvidia licensing fees to make their own ARM chips, especially since Apple absolutely hates Nvidia. And I'm sure there's many other companies out there in the same boat. But to me, this just seems like a very political sort of thing. Because if they did approve it or just kind of like rubber stamp it, and now they're like, whoa, 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 we didn't understand what we were doing, it either shows incompetence or somebody's greasing the wheels in the other direction. They're more than likely that's what's happening. Somebody's paying these guys to be like, hey, let's get on these guys. Now Nvidia is going to have to pay them more money than the other people. And it's just cronyism at its worst. But this is the way things are done in the world today and pretty much throughout my entire lifetime. So if anybody's out there going, Nvidia is not going to get this done, they basically just have to outbid the people that don't want it to get done. So who knows? Nvidia's got a lot of money, and this is a big deal if they can make it happen. So I'm not saying that it's dead, but it's definitely hitting some chop, and this was expected to happen. We'll just see how it goes. Personally, I don't care if Nvidia buys ARM because it doesn't personally affect me that much. I don't really buy cell phones. I get one like a decade and whatever. I don't particularly care. But at the same time, I can see why other companies, particularly Apple, would not want this to happen. And even smaller manufacturers, the guys like with like Raspberry Pis and whatnot, even though they're not out really to make a profit, this could increase costs on their end. And that's kind of what they're trying to avoid. They're trying to put out a product at the absolute lowest price point. So knowing Nvidia, they're going to charge more because they're Nvidia. So anyways, I wanted to bring that up because I found it interesting. They're hitting some chop. We'll see who's got more money. That's basically how this is going to go. Who has more money? It's a corporate dick measuring contest. That's literally all it is. And politicians make out like bandits. Speaking of the way things always work, on these news update videos, I go ahead and I search for one of the best deals out there every single time we do this. I found a pretty interesting deal for you guys to check out here today. Now, this isn't going to float everybody's boat, but if you like small form factor gaming, the Razer Tomahawk Mini ITX gaming chassis on sale for $139 over here on Amazon. This is actually a really neat little case. If you wanted to go ahead and pick this up, you could put in a full-size discrete graphics card. You can put in your SFX power supply. You can put in a 120mm rad, no problem. And it's got 240 or, well, I guess two 120mm fans on the bottom. So it shoots the air from the bottom to the top. It's actually a really nice little case. The price is not that bad considering how much money cases like this can go for. Granted, there are probably some cheaper options out there, but you get the dual tempered glass, and honestly, I've paid like $40 less than this for much cheaper cases. So personally, I think it's a pretty good deal if you're interested in small form factor building. Then tying into a good deal is our good old game of the day. Today, I picked Singularity. This is actually a game that not a lot of people are very familiar with. This is kind of one of those missed gems of the 7th generation. This is made by Raven Software over at Activision, the guys that did like Quake 4 and Soldier of Fortune, and just a lot of great early 2000s and 90s shooters. This is a game that just happened to fly under the radar. I personally really like it. I like the atmosphere that they use. The game runs very smooth. It's, I believe, Unreal Engine 3. Graphics still hold up pretty well today. I played it not too long ago. It was a few months ago, and I still enjoy it. It has an interesting story and interesting gameplay mechanics that separate it from your standard typical military first-person shooter. So it's kind of more akin to something like a Wolfenstein with kind of the futuristic-y sort of sci-fi type lean to it. So if you like the Wolfenstein games and you've never played Singularity, you should do yourself a favor, pick it up. It's on sale over here at GOG. It's only $6 right now, so that's a super good deal. And you get it DRM free and you own it forever. So yeah, if you haven't played it in a while or never played it, it's definitely worth checking out. Well, alrighty guys, that'll pretty much do it for today. I'm pretty interested to see how the mainstream GPU market gets sorted over the next few months. With 2 new GPUs coming out next month, I think at least you guys will have some options. Like I said, if you're sitting there with a GTX 1050 Ti, I did a video on it last year. It's just simply not good enough for modern games. RX 470 or better is kind of where you need to be. And even then, you're running heavily compromised settings in a lot of newer games. So if you're getting something more like a 1660 Super or 1660 Ti, it's not a huge upgrade from those. But at the same time, it should make modern games more playable. The RTX 3050 actually looks like a pretty damn good option. Like I said, with things like DLSS, you could probably push 1440p. And if you can get the card under $400, Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you guys, that's actually a deal here today. I showed you guys what 1660 Ti's are going for. You get more VRAM over there. So hopefully that puts pressure on AMD to push prices down even further, and then we get some decent deals. But just like with any of the GPU releases over the past year and a half, you're gonna have to buy them day one, probably not even knowing how they perform. The upside is if it's junk and you're like, I don't want this, resell it at a profit. So you might as well buy the thing. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, well, make some money. So, alrighty guys, that's pretty much where I'm at. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you like these update videos, I'm doing them every Friday and every Monday, so this is gonna be kind of on a schedule. And I go ahead and do the live streams with Paul at the Techonomics podcast every Wednesday, Thursday, depending on scheduling, and every Saturday. So if you guys want to join in on that, tomorrow you can talk to us live, and we'll just have a blast talking about all this stuff, and we love hanging out with you guys. So, alrighty guys, that's really all I have for you here today, and I will catch you guys in the next video.